Hi, Joseph.
Hello.
Joseph, it's really good to see you. We get to see each other once a month with a new
At
guest, and
least I know.
so much I feel has happened in my world since I last saw you. But I don't want to talk about me. I want to hear one amazing thing that has happened first in your world.
I will say that I was recently interviewed for the Power of Love Summit alongside, metaphorically, alongside Marianne Williamson and Deepak Chopra and Michael Beckwith and New Thought leaders like that. And they invited me and my husband into the room. And that's been pretty freaking amazing. And it goes live this Thursday, June 6th. Tell me
That
about
is
you. Something
that is
amazing.
amazing. I love that. Well, I don't know if I can top that one,
Nope, not a
Joseph Bennett.
competition, Grandi.
I have been brilliant. I have been
Of course,
I don't
we would
know how else.
expect nothing less from you.
Well, I just feel really feel a lot of gratitude. It's the end of the school year. I just got to go see my daughter. She did her science fair project with a friend of hers. They did different variations on slime. I believe the hypothesis, which was which one will dry out faster. So you learn something new every time. But it was really wonderful to go around to each one of the kids and what they were working on and seeing how full of life they became when you asked them questions. That was really delightful for me. So that's what's new in my life and most recent. And then we have Terrance here,
Oh,
who I'm
oh,
really excited to have a conversation with because I know Terrance, from what I have read, you very much value education, especially for those children who might not be getting the attention that they need and they're underserved. And so, Joseph, would you do me the favor and read the amazing bio that is of Terrance Wallace?
I will. I will. And I would like to start by saying, I think, Meredith, I'm going to go out on a limb here, but I think that this podcast was made way back when for the Terrance Wallaces of the world.
Wow.
I'm
Thank you.
going to say that because in 2011, Terrance Wallace launched the In Zone Project. Its aim was to transform the lives of disadvantaged teens by physically moving them into supportive homes in zones that enable them to receive opportunities at top schools. Audience, you are going to be flabbergasted when you hear this story. Since then, he has been the legal guardian of over 200 children, forming countless relationships and building a network that helps them combat generational poverty. Apart from his professional achievements, Terrance is also recognized as host and facilitator of monthly conversations aimed at promoting racial reconciliation. He has a strong background in development and fundraising, having raised nearly $100 million over the course of 25 years. His entrepreneurial spirit extends to both for profit and non for profit ventures. He has successfully started multiple initiatives, including Scan One Limited, based in New Zealand, In Zone Project, that's happening in New Zealand and in the USA, and New Life Covenant Southeast Church in Chicago. He is currently the executive director of Hope Center USA in Lake Zurich, Illinois. And he says that after all of that, he now gives himself permission to keep dreaming, even when it's not popular. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the
Mm.
show. We are honored to sit down with you, Terrance Wallace.
Thank you both. It's an honor to be in this conversation with you today, and definitely um, am one who believes that it's okay to keep dreaming.
Hmm.
Never stop dreaming.
Never
Never.
stop dreaming.
Never stop dreaming. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Can
I Go ahead, Joseph.
can we please start with a bit of an origin story, Terrence? So there must have been a time where you noticed the disadvantaged opportunities for teens, right? Maybe based on their race, maybe based on their economics, whatever it was, and you decided. There must have been a moment when you decided, I'm going to do something. Can you tell
Uh,
us about that?
yes. So I am an only child to my mom, who was a single mom growing up. So for most of the large part of my childhood, I never knew who my father was. And so my mom worked two and three jobs sometimes to provide. I was in a school outside of my school zone, which I had to travel 45 minutes to an hour to get to each day. And so I was the first, I had the first encounter of what it was like to be a young African American male in a community with lack of resources. I grew up on the west side of Chicago, in the largest community across the 76 communities of Chicago, and one that's, if you look up, will definitely be amongst the top six that has crime and violence associated with it. And so, growing up in that environment, my mom put me in church. You know, she turned to the church to help with this young man to develop
Mm.
and to sort of get me on the right path. And so I have 76 first cousins. My ancestry background is Native American Cherokee, so my great great grandmother was a Cherokee woman. Married an African dude, and they had a lot of kids. 21 kids is what they had.
Oh
My
my goodness.
had 14 kids. And so I have 76 first cousins. And then my mom had one. So there you go. And so when people ask the questions, why do you like having so many, so many kids? I grew up in a big family, although I was an only child to my mom.
Mhm.
Yeah. But,
And
and go ahead. Sorry.
no, please continue. I just wanted to ask more questions, but I have a feeling you have more to say, brother.
Well, I was going to say, in my community on the west side of Chicago, growing up there, uh, it appeared to be a good community until I hit my teen years. And that's when I believe drugs and gangs and things infested the community. And so I very early on had this idea around changing the narrative for what people would consider a young African American or black man, black or brown person to be. And so when I turned on the media, what I would see is all the time, you know, gangs of people being locked up or incarcerated because of violence, and anything positive was about an athlete, a professional athlete.
Hmm.
You know, so you either had to be a criminal or you be a professional athlete or an entertainer, and I was neither of any of those. And so I wanted to create something different with my life, and so I sought out to do that. I didn't have an idea about how that would happen, but when my mom moved me from the local school in our community to a school near O'Hare Airport called Dirksen Elementary, it was the place where I believe my life was transformed because I learned the gift of diversity, and I learned the value of being a young black boy in the midst of a world that was very diverse, and learned how to coexist. And I think that value of coexisting and valuing other ethnic groups and ways of life, and also being confident in who I was, made a massive difference in my life.
And then there was a point where you said, I'm going to open up my home and invite strangers into my home, become their guardian, their legal guardian, and get them into good schools. I mean, who does that?
Hey, Joseph, it was honestly that was a God move. Let me tell you, I am a Christian, and I grew up in Christianity. But the move to take in, and people will look up Terrance Wallace and see all these great stories, but and all the wonderful outcomes. But let me tell you, to take on legal guardianship of other people's children is a massive responsibility, and it should not, it should not be taken lightly. And most people, that's why most people don't do it, right? But when I consider how I grew up and the number of young people in my community who did not have fathers, and these single moms doing their very best to raise their sons and their daughters, was a huge task. Like I can't. I was blessed to have an amazing mother who, and then with this big family, my grandfather and everybody pitched in, my uncles to support, and then obviously the church. But to for a mother to have to raise children by herself, especially boys, because I think in the times that we live in, it's crucial for there to be some male mentorship or something to help them develop into young men, um, whoever they will become in this world that we live in. And so Yes, I did. I did. I moved to New Zealand, and that's where this big idea, I say God idea, came about. Where I ended up taking legal guardianship of kids. First, my first inaugural home, I had 28 boys. Right, I'm a foreigner. I'm from the USA, and I landed in New Zealand, and it's a paradise. And I'm thinking, wow, this place is amazing. Green grass, blue waters, and palm trees. I mean, what more can you
Yeah.
ask for, right? And so, as time have it, that grew and grew and grew, and then it came time that my kids were doing stories, essay reports on the violence in Chicago amongst Black and brown men,
Yeah.
and I had to support them with those assignments. And so very quickly, part of the model of the End Zone Project is that you go back and give to the community that you come from, and you invest back into that community. And so now I had to practice what I preach. And so I came back home to Chicago, and it was doing one of the most high intense, I would say, racial moments in history. You know, we had President Trump then I think he was president by the time I came back, and you had the situations with police and Black men, and here I was coming back to my home country, to my hometown, to take Black and brown boys into suburbia Chicago to live and go to attend schools there. Of course, from the community that I'm from, they did not want the parent. They thought that I was just crazy. Why would you take our kids and subject them to that kind of lifestyle where their lives can be taken? But on the other end, I was thinking, wow, there are kids that are sitting in their homes or playing on their porches or in front of their houses where there are drive-by shootings happening and our kids are dying. And so my model is that I needed to love our kids back to a place of safety, creating a passage for them, not in the midst of gunfire, in the midst of racial tension, to get them across one side to the other to break that cycle and change the narrative. And the only way I thought to do that was to create an opportunity where I became a legal guardian and co-parent with their biological moms. So I don't adopt them. I co-parent with their biological moms because their moms didn't do anything but just try to get them to a great outcome. Sorry, go ahead, Joseph.
Well, oh, go ahead, Joseph. Were you going to say something?
Nope. I was
Okay.
just taking notes on some of the brilliance that Terrance was sharing with us.
This is so beautiful. So thank you for all of the service that you've done, and
Thank you.
this work that you're doing, co-parenting with the mother. I'm curious about that. There's a couple of questions I have within this. The first one is, what is that like to co-parent? And I can imagine that you coming in as a different voice, being a parent. I know that my child listens to other people differently than she listens to me, right? So I see that there's an advantage there. So maybe something a mom really wanted for their child, but their child couldn't hear it because it was the mom that was saying it.
Mm.
You coming in and amplifying that voice, I would imagine has happened, which is thank you for that. The second piece I'm curious about is, ho- was that a simple, like, what is that process like? I would imagine it's very bureaucratic.
Mhm.
Uh, and the amount of people you've done that, children you've done that for, is extraordinary. So can you talk a little bit about what that process is like? Perhaps there's someone listening right now that's like, I'm very inspired by what Terrance is
Mhm.
sharing. How do I even go about starting that process?
Yes, absolutely. So one, it is a very complex process to some extent because one is that I call it, you have to date the family, right?
Yeah.
Initially.
Uh-huh.
And that means that I invite young men into our home. They get to know our boys, they get to know my wife, they get to know how we live, what the expectations are. And then they get to go back and, think about it with their families. We get to know the parent and find out, is this parent going to be a great co-parent to work with? Can we together create a wraparound support for this kid to help them reach their full potential? That's how we do it. So that's the first stage before we even go through any bureaucratic paperwork or anything like that.
Hmm.
Then in the state of Illinois, it's called a short-term guardianship agreement. Now, that's only short term, that's 365 days, right? So you can enter that agreement as you go through your pilot phase with the family, right? Just a trial. Once that 365 days is completed, then you go to the courts, the county courts for where you're living. Then you complete the paperwork, and then you file guardianship through the courts. This officially allows short term in the guardianship through the courts allows that kid access to full responsibility. So the access to the school district. Also, anything that happens with that kid, you are then responsible for. So every one of my kids, our kids, I should say, I'm responsible for. Now, so that's one process. When you talk about how does a parent, a mother, decides I am going to allow my son, in some cases daughters, to live under someone else's roof for an extended period of time. That truly, I mean, comes obviously from that parent, a lot of vetting of that individual. In some cases, some parents can't, moms can't pull themselves to do that. So that does take time to go through that process. Oftentimes, for every one of my boys, they had to want this particular opportunity. It could not be just pushed by their parent. It had to be pushed by the kid.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that. Yeah, Joseph.
So my heart in this moment, Terrence, and even before this interview, goes out to that boy,
Mhm.
right? That boy who was sitting on the porch, maybe seeing the drive-by shooting, sitting there gaming on his phone, not really thinking about a future, not really thinking about the possibility of a future. And
Mhm.
here comes this handsome stranger knocking on the door saying, you know what? I'm going to give you an opportunity. There is life outside of this neighborhood. And as you said, I needed to love our kids back to safety.
Mhm.
That, I mean, I just can't imagine how that boy or sometimes that girl feels so damn special, right? Like he picked me, he and his wife, they picked me out of all the thousands of kids in Chicago and also in New Zealand to give me an opportunity like that. Just my heart just goes out to that kid, right?
Mm.
How special he must feel. It's life changing, and
It,
it's generational changing, right?
Absolutely. We've had from two of my boys, one mom has gone back to school, got her bachelor's and master's degree, and will be purchasing her first home. We have
Mm,
another one who went became an electrician. We have another one who now just has recently reinstated for her law, started her law firm with immigration to help those who are seeking to become citizens of the U.S. And so we've seen the impact, the residual impact of just helping one or two kids with one family, what that can do to change the narrative for the entire family. And I think in the communities that we live in, there's often conversations or you see generational wealth. But to see that happening of ending or changing the narrative generationally in poverty is massive. And I think that,
yeah.
and it doesn't cost what it costs to incarcerate a kid across our country. This is a fraction of the cost. And I think I think there's a story to be told there when we look at the DCFS system across our country that has not worked, in my opinion, has failed not only Black and Brown families, but I think it's failed kids across the spectrum when you talk about the trauma that kids experience through the system. But when you want to create real change, it doesn't come with the price tag on it, right? You passion. I say this all the time. Passion is a universal language. It knows no boundary. It does not discriminate. And when we're loving our kids back to a place of safety, there is a passion there that draws people in, even those who sometimes don't even understand it. I've seen that through the life and inaugural start of the End Zone Project, and even till today. I mean, we had huge challenges coming into the community that we currently live in. But when I tell you the difference that time makes in understanding and seeking to build bridges of racial reconciliation, it makes a massive difference. And now we have allies in places that I would have never imagined that we would, because we stayed the course and we pursued the vision of helping kids cross over to change their narrative.
So Terrace, this is incredible, and I want to know. There's again, it's a good two-part question.
Mhm.
First part is how how can we continue to grow this so that
Mhm.
that's the first question. I'll just leave it there. And the second question is, where do you find your support in all of this?
Me personally?
Yeah, where
Oh,
do you find
yes.
your
Okay.
that's a lot of kids, that's a lot of it
Yes.
that's a lot of heart, that's a lot of passion, and you, my friend, I barely know you, but I see you can hold the space for all of that, but I would imagine you need your support too, and where do you find that?
Absolutely. First question, how can you support? Great. That's a great question. Um, and how do we grow this? And so for the last 2 years, I've been working with an advisory group out in Barrington Hills who really have helped me to flush this out. So currently, Endzone is a 501c3 not-for-profit, so it receives donations from everywhere, anyone that's willing, I should say. And we don't have any staff, so we don't pay any staff. Like I don't get paid from Endzone or anything like that. Every dollar that's raised goes directly to a kid, right? And
Mhm.
so we've done it that way. Well, I've done it that way. I have a board of directors, and so the board focuses on strategic growth. How can we scale this? And so what I've done is come up with a model that I now see that's scalable. So we Endzone partners with guardians across the country, right? Those guardians enter into what's called a service agreement. You go undergo six to 12 months training on how to deliver this model in your home, right?
Mhm.
From there, an advisor group is created, and homes are created in clusters so that you have like your aunties and uncles, so to speak, and your cousins and all that. So you all live in the same community, and you attend either the same school or school that's a partner school district not too far away. And so we grow it that way. Most homes will not have as many kids as I have, right? So I'm like this is what I do. So I do it. But the max any one home could have is five outside of the Wallace home. Right. So that's how we grow. That's what we're looking at scaling. And so we're just entering that phase now and hoping to grow. So we're looking for those that are interested in being guardians. And then also we're looking at those that would like to be a part of advocating for this to grow across the country so that more kids from disadvantaged homes and communities in poverty could get these opportunities. And people may ask the question, well, why do you have to move them from their local community school districts to affluent areas? Well, unfortunately, the way I wouldn't say just not just America, but across the world is set up is that the communities that have the best school resources are the schools that are in affluent communities where homes cost million plus or right way expensive than a normal family, average family in poverty could afford. And so we go into those districts, not just for the education, that's one thing. But when I tell you, when a black or brown kid lives in a community and of poverty or urban and goes away to university, you think, well, that kid made it out. Well, no, because once they graduate from university, they have the most difficult time finding a job that pays a wage that's large enough to pay for the student debt as well as live. And so they oftentimes have this enormous student debt and not opportunities for a great livable wage of employment. InZone lives in a zone that has an extreme value on a network of people. That my boys are doing internships, even in high school, building relationships that are going to last a lifetime. That's how you end and break the cycle of poverty. It's integrating the has with the have-nots. I always sometimes say that. And then the next part of your question is how do I get supported? What are the things that help me to stay strong, help me to stay inspired, and allow me to keep dreaming and thinking and being innovative? Number one is my spirituality. I attend church every single week. I participate in couples Bible study for me and my wife. I have a men's group in Barrington that I'm a part of that continues to build and develop me and challenge me and hold me accountable. And then the biggest thing of them all, every single night, I get to sit down at a table with my family and we have conversations. And that is the best medicine or refill I could ever ask for, because I see right before my very eyes the very reason I exist is to provide a bridge for these young men, and to see where they start at and where they finish. I just Three of my boys just graduated from Barrington High School, and all of them are going to college and university. And like you look at this, and we've been in Barrington 3 years now. I have six boys who've graduated so far from the high school. And just to look and see how their trajectory is going and what could have been if they didn't have this, that's
Yes.
enough to keep me inspired and keep me moving.
Beautiful. Thank you.
So, Terrance, we have given some airspace to you and to the boys and to the advisory group. I want to give some airspace to your beloved wife, because
Yes.
I'm going to make an assumption that when she married you and she stood at the altar and said, "I do," she was not saying "I do" to be legal guardian for 200 strangers. Right.
No.
So first tell us her name, and then tell us a little bit about her story, and how did you convince her that this was her mission as well, or maybe it's not. Tell me.
Thank you, Joseph. My wife, her name is Betsaida Wallace now, and she is absolutely amazing. First of all, yes, I was well into the End Zone Project and had guardianship of kids already, and she still said yes. Um, I dated her. We met. She heard me speak at a church, at our church, I should say, and she found me on Instagram. The church is massive, so she found me on Instagram. I never saw her what she looked like. This was in a July. I never saw what she looked like until November, and that was by accident at a party.
Mhm.
And she's absolutely beautiful. She's inside and out. And we dated. Every Friday night was a date night. I buy her roses every single week. I My boys get to see me love on her, and now seeing them how they're dating in their dating relationship, seeing how they love on the young ladies of their lives. It's just been remarkable. But it was when she came into our home, though, it definitely turned into a home and not a bachelor's pad. Because it's like, when I say a bachelor's pad, meaning that I didn't have many flowers and pictures on the wall. She came in the house and warmified it for me,
She did.
and it really made it a warm home. But I am definitely grateful to God for her. She teaches kids with disabilities, and
Mhm.
so she comes from a large family as well. She has eight of them.
Mhm.
She's Afro Latino, and she speaks Spanish fluently. And yeah, I love her, and the boys love her. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. That was a great question, Joseph.
Yes, very great question.
Well, yeah, when you ask about support, right? The people that are in our family that we're married to, how do they show up? And
Yeah.
that's beautiful. And I want to give a shout out to Regina and to Kevin for being here in our chat
Hi,
and
Regina.
watching
Hi,
and
Kevin.
listening. Yeah. Um, Tell me, what question would you love to be asked that we have not asked you yet?
Oftentimes, so you see the End Zone Project, and you see all that encompass, which is a lot for most people. And he says, "Well, Terrance, how do you have capacity?" My capacity, I said before, comes through God.
Mhm.
I am also the executive director of the Hope Center USA, where we provide services for over 600 people a week, where it's groceries. We have a hydroponic greenhouse, a farm, legal services, English as a second language, a number of other things. But the other part of me that I really enjoy, that allows me to be able to do all these things, which most will view as charitable things, but I enjoy doing business. And so
Mhm.
I consult for, obviously, you guys mentioned that, various number of corporate organizations as well as not-for-profits. And the time and capacity of one day, um, it's a balancing act. But when I think about the world that we live in, um, if will I rather give up an episode of a TV show and then do something great that can potentially have the impact that can change the world? I absolutely will. And I think that, sometimes we all have capacity to change scenarios, We just have to decide today, what are we willing to give up to make a difference in the world? And when I say the world, it can be your immediate circle of influence where you are.
Beautiful. Well said. I love that. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I know for myself that I know we have a couple of links that we're going to share in our source notes, but I would love for you to just share with us how people can find you.
How you can find me? I'm on all the social media outlets. Just look up Terrance Wallace on IG, on Instagram. My name on Instagram is I Am Relentless Faith, because I am driven by my faith. I'm on LinkedIn, all of the outlets, YouTube. And if you want to go to Amazon Prime, In the Zone film is on Amazon Prime. I would encourage you guys. You can learn more about the In Zone project from watching that, both New Zealand and Chicago. And there are some exciting upcoming things that will be out soon about that whole journey. And then a book is going to be coming soon as well. Not so much about the In Zone project, even though some of that's in there, but the book is called Passion, the Universal Language.
My final question for you, my friend, is some of what you shared with us today about the inner city of Chicago rings so familiar to me after reading Michelle Obama's first book. And I'm wondering, does she know of your work?
I don't think Michelle does. I know Netflix at one point was looking at doing either our docuseries or the film that's on Amazon currently, and that's during the time where the Obamas had purchased a large percentage of Netflix. But I'm not sure that she does, to be honest. I haven't. It'd be great if Michelle's listening.
Well, I think we should change that. I think I know someone who knows them. I'll
Okay.
figure it out.
Let's change that.
Meredith, make that happen.
We all know someone who knows someone, right?
Yeah.
I will make that happen.
And
That would be
I'm giving a last shout out to Andy Rostat and his beautiful wife Christina.
Annie, yes.
who made this connection happen. So
Yes,
thank you,
thank
Christina
you
and
both.
Andy.
They are amazing couple. Amazing couple.
Well, Terrance, this has been such an honor to hear your story. Thank you for the work, the important work that you're doing, the meaningful work that you're doing. And I definitely, you now have a new fan, and I will do what I
Thank you.
can to be of support.
Thank you both.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye, everybody. Have a great rest of the day.
God
Thank
bless.
you.
Bless.
Bye.
Bye-bye.